Harry, if you wouldn't mind starting off by introducing yourself and what your relevance is to the Friday the 13th franchise.
Well, my name's Harry Manfredini. I wrote the original score and a number of them following that, 1 through 6, 9, 10. And hey, I like to think I'm a big part of it.
I mean, it's about as iconic gets, you know.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's
another nickel for me.
Exactly.
A film composer is a dramatist. He's part dramatist, part composer. Sometimes you're almost more dramatist than you are a composer. And the dramatic problem with Friday the 13th, the original film, was that you never saw the killer until Reel 9. But somehow or other, I wanted to create a presence for the killer in the movie, so that it wasn't just the cameraman shooting. We wanted the audience to know, uh-oh, this is the killer. What we're seeing now is the killer, not just the cameraman. And so I needed to find something that immediately, like in that amount of time, everybody knew exactly. So after watching the movie for a long time, enough times, it finally dawned on me at the end, Betsy Palmer, when she finally appears in the film, there's a close-up of her mouth. I don't know if you remember the film, but there's a close-up of her mouth, and the voice goes from Jason's voice to her voice, going, "Kill her, mommy."
Super creepy.
Kill her, mommy. It was a very creepy shot, and it was very. And at that point, I said to myself, she hears voices. She hears voices all the time. And so that said, so this is going on at all times. So, in a completely separate issue, there was a composer named Penderecki who I was studying at the time, and he had a choral piece in which they were singing in Polish. But in Polish, you have a lot of consonants, and you get 100 people saying very complicated Polish word, which I can't even think of what it is, but it was very dramatic, and I went, wow, that is so dramatic. So I just said, "Kill her, mommy," and I took the kill, K-I, and I just went, K, and then mommy, I just went, ma. And then in the score, whenever there was like no dialogue and it was a cut to the killer, I just wrote in the score K-M, and then I went up to a microphone doing a lot of the part. I played a lot of parts in that film score. I just went, ma. And then we ran it through something called an Echoplex machine, which was like really cool back then. Now it's like,
it was the size of a room.
It was the size of a room.
It took 4 engineers to run it.
Right, yeah. Anyway, and so I would go, it would go, and I just dropped it in, and then, okay, now we know it's the killer. And when everybody heard it, they went, wow, that is so creepy and so spooky, and it worked. It literally, by the time we got to Reel 9, everybody in the audience knew it was like, you know, the theme, it became the theme of Jason. So that's how, I mean, it really was thought out. I knew I had to do something. It wasn't just, I wasn't just having a sandwich one day. And, you know, I'll have kosher pickles.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
I mean, I think after listening to that story, Wes, it kind of really lays bare why Harry really had to be part of this project.
There was absolutely no question about it. I mean, when I go back and watch all those films and ensure that iconic Jason Stinger is heavily coveted and highly identifiable, but even when you go back and watch all the films and listen to the entire soundscape that Harry created for those films, that there's a touch that you have that even other horror composers at the exact same time with similar instruments didn't have that. And yet I can watch films side by side, and there was some, whenever I was first researching you and starting to look into your music, I would have YouTube open and have some of your music there that I was listening to, and I would stop that one and then listen to 3 or 4 other guys that were from around that time. And there couldn't have been a bigger difference when I would step back and listen to what you had created for those films. And I'm not as well versed to be able to, musically point out why, but there's a signature there that drew me in.
The music became a character in that film, and if you go to the original Friday the 13th, there really isn't a lot of music for a horror film. There's only like 40-some minutes of music for a full-length feature, and usually in horror films, you're up around 70 minutes of music, maybe 80 even. This is very small. And the other thing is that it's very minimal. I once said there are really only 2 chords in the whole film, and there's actually no melody, with the exception of that little Sail Away Tiny Sparrow song that I wrote for the diner that actually became the end credit scene. I was really at a loss at that point. It was pretty funny. But I created what is the sound of that camp. It's that camp. And someday if we ever go to the studio or I could play you the 2 chords that are in the movie. And everything in that movie, every note is literally generated by those 2 sounds, so that there was a sameness to that score. It was just, it never let go. It was always that sound, and that's probably what made it sound. It was always so focused as to what it was, and I think it really helped being effective. And like I said, there was never any melody. So we came to the end scene where Adrian is in the boat, and I'm going, oh great, now I've got to come up with a piece of music that's going to sound like it's the end credits, because that was the object, to
pull the rug out,
to fool the audience into like, okay, Martha, put on your coat, we're leaving, But at any moment you expected the credit roll to come up, and what really, that's where everybody played together. The editor stretched that out beyond, because people had seen Carrie, and you know, like, oh, something's going to happen, and we kept losing people, and the longer it got, the more people were going like, no, nothing's going to happen. But the Carrie people are going, oh yeah, no, something's going to happen. And then finally, about 15 seconds after that, everybody gave up, and nothing's going to happen, and bang, that's when we hit. But the thing about the scene was that I'm going, how am I going to come up with a tune? I haven't used the tune for 9.5 reels. And then I remember the little song from the diner, Sail Away, and everything. So I literally just sat down and played the piano of that tune with some crazy strings that were what they call flanged, another crazy sound. It's a filter that goes up and down the spectrum. Anyway, and that worked too, because it really sounded like the end credits. Most people don't realize it's really the song that just plays in the diner without anybody singing, and a little bit slower, of course.
With sound for, especially a horror film, I mean, it is so important because it does become a character. It's a way to kind of add to that sense of tension in the audience, that, okay, something bad is happening, I'm on edge. I mean, that transfers quite similarly to what you want to have in the game as well.
Oh, no question. It's just the approach is a little different, except like when Harry and I first met and started talking about this, what he's used to as a director, sort of pushing him emotionally towards the scene. So what is the audience supposed to be feeling at this moment, so that whenever he's putting the pieces together, he's reflecting that, and that becomes the somewhat of a challenge here for this project, because he may ask the question, what's the audience supposed to be feeling right now? And it's like, well, there's variables. The audience could be doing multiple things here. Like it doesn't matter if it's not one thing. That he could be killing someone, or he could be escaping, or he could be et cetera, et cetera. So with all those different potential outcomes, emotions, energy, et cetera, that becomes definitely a challenge for him, that I still want that signature Harry Manfredini sound that I want from that, but how do you, take that and give me layer upon layer upon layer of it so that we can call those layers where we need to call them.
Right. The fun thing about this is that this becomes like the world's biggest musical crossword puzzle, because you, the player, are literally creating the score. What you do determines what piece of music comes in. Whatever you choose to do, the score will go with you. I'm going to try to dramatize the choice, no matter what choice it is that you make. I mean, I've always scored the camp, the camp counselors, and I'm going like, wonder what kind of music Jason hears. So that one's going to be completely new and completely. I mean, obviously he's not listening to,
top 40,
top 40 tunes
easy listening.
or easy listening. I think we would eliminate those. But I mean, just what does the world of Jason sound like? And I haven't figured that out yet. But I'll have it before too long.